Okay, welcome once again on the next class lecture of NPTEL assignments. As you know, NPTEL assignments are very rich source of questions for various exams, including GATE exam, and there are so many other exams like BARC exam, ISRO exam, for which you can refer to these questions, and they are very good questions based upon the really good concepts. So team YourPedia has brought this entire module for you on NPTEL, and we also come out with a couple of questions on YouTube. Almost every day one or the other lecture is coming up for your reference. You can see all these lectures, and you can take these questions, documents from our website. And this lecture is the first lecture related to engineering mechanics. So of late, the weightage of engineering mechanics, because this is the topic which is related to physics. So of late, this weightage of this topic has increased, not only in written exam but also in interviews. So let's go for a couple of questions related to engineering mechanics. This is the first lecture. I want you to read this question carefully. So there are two particles A and B as shown in the diagram. They lie on y axis at distance r1 and r2. As it is given, R2 is more than R1 from the origin O. So they have given origin also. At time t is equal to 0, particle A starts moving in clockwise direction in the circle of radius R1 as shown with angular velocity omega, while particle B starts moving anti-clockwise at the same time in the circle of radius R2 with the same angular velocity. At what time would the area of triangle OAB be maximum? You can see the diagram. Now stop the video here and try to answer this question on your own, because this is a typical GATE type of question where they check your aptitude related to engineering and even mathematics, and aptitude related to do you know the basics of trigonometry, do you know how to approach this problem, and that kind of thing. So think it of what do you mean by that. Now let me give you some idea. For any triangle, the area is maximum when you get this as 90 degree, half of base into height. That gives you when the two sides are fixed, R1 R2 are fixed. Now this side is R2 and this side is R1. Take the initial case at t is equal to 0. Take the initial case when t is equal to 0. Then in the beginning R1 and R2 are like this. This is R2 and this one is R1 in the beginning at t is equal to 0. At some particular time, this R2 will be here and R1 will be here. R2 will be here and R1 will be at this point. Let us say that is at particular time capital T, let us say. So at t is equal to 0, both the R1 and R2 are like this. This is R1, this is R2 at time t is equal to 0. These two radial vectors, these two radius lengths do not make any kind of triangle. Area is 0. After some time, R2 is this side, R1 is this side, again the area is 0 because triangle is not formed. That means somewhere in the between, angle theta is equal to 0. In the time t is equal to 0, angle between these two R1 R2 is 0. So the area is 0. When angle between R1 and R2 is pi, again the area is 0. So at theta is equal to 0, angle is 0, so area is 0. At theta pi, again the area is 0 because R1 and R2, they are opposite to one another. That means somewhere in between, when the angle between these two is 90 degree, let us say when this angle is 90 degree, then the area of the triangle is going to be maximum. So area of triangle OAB, what is O? This is O, A and B, is going to be maximum. Now the angular velocity of both the particles, in the beginning particles are like this. Now how much time it has taken to reach here is t, and how much time it has taken to reach here is also t. both the particles have taken equal time and they are moving with same angular velocity. Can you tell me what is this angle theta 1 and what is this angle theta 2? So theta 1 is omega into t and theta 2 is also omega into t. Angular velocity is nothing but angular displacement per unit time. Theta per unit time is angular velocity. So if we know the angular velocity is omega, so in the t time how much angle each radius covers is theta 1 and theta 2. So we know the angle is theta 1 is omega t and angle theta 2 is also omega t. So what is the total angle, can you tell me now? Theta 1 plus theta 2? Theta 1 plus theta 2 is 2 omega into t. But for the maximum area, this angle theta 1 plus theta 2 should be pi by 2. So this pi by 2 is equal to 2 omega into t. So we want to find out value of t. This is nothing but pi by 4 omega. So though he has given you the answer choice also, I hope this is clear. So the concept required was the angular velocity is nothing but angular displacement per unit time in radian per second. That is number one concept required. Second concept required was for particular these two sides, if the angle is 90 degree, then the area of triangle is going to be maximum. Using these two concepts, I think we could have solved this question, and these are the answer choices given. So we have got pi by 4 omega is the answer for this. As I told you, so typically good question from NPTEL assignment and wonderful question. See, NPTEL assignment does not mean very difficult question only. 60 to 70% questions are above average, involving the thinking, your concepts and aptitude of engineering and all. Same in the thing for your interviews and all also. So you should be very clear about what kind of question they can ask you. Let's go for this question now. This question is related to friction. There is a block of weight 500 Newton and it is about to move up the plane due to horizontal force of 800 Newton as shown in the diagram. The coefficient of friction between the contact surface is what? So that is a question given. So you have to resolve the forces and you have to find out the coefficient of friction. Again, you can stop the video here and try to solve this question on your own before I solve it. Stop the question, and you know these questions are different because they are the NPTEL questions. They are the typical questions which you can get in exams like GATE exams and other such competitive exams. So when it is about to move up means the friction will be downward. When it is trying to move up, the friction is going to act downward. What kind of forces are acting on this block now? If I make the free body diagram, what kind of forces are acting on this? Because of its weight 500 Newton, there are two forces acting. If this angle is 30 degree, this angle is also 30 degree. So this is 500 cos 30 is the normal reaction component of this in the normal reaction. Another is 500 sin 30, that is the weight component. So the weight 500 Newton, the weight of this body which is 500 Newton is resolved into two forces. So let me make the diagram here also so that we know how we have resolved the forces. So this is one force, this is another force. This is 500 sin 30 and this is 500 cos 30. These are the two forces which are related to the weight of the block. But then there is a 800 Newton force is also acting. Now I resolve these 800 Newton force also along the inclined surface and perpendicular to the contact surface. So this particular inclined surface is the contact surface. This angle is 30 degree. So this force now which is acting on this is 800 cos of 30 degree. So 800 cos 30 is this force which will make it move upward. 800 cos 30 degree is going to make it move upward. And then there is another component of this which is 800 sin 30 which is going to act downward. So 800 sine 30 is going to act downward. Now these are the forces which are to be resolved actually. Can you tell me what is the normal reaction to the contact surface? Normal reaction to the contact surface is 500 cos 30 plus 800 sine 30. So both these forces together make the normal reaction. These two forces will make the normal reaction, 500 cos 30 plus 800 sine 30. Now this body will start moving. Now this is the normal reaction. So the friction force which acts, friction force is nothing but mu into normal reaction, and this is the normal reaction we have obtained. Now what is another equation is, this force is balanced by these two forces. So we can say 800 cos 30 is equal to 500 sine 30 plus friction force. 800 cos 30 is equal to 500 sine 30 plus friction force. So almost at this point body will start moving up, and all we will need to find out is now value of mu. So if I further solve it, 800 cos 30 minus 500 sine 30 is equal to mu into normal reaction. Normal reaction is 500 cos 30 plus 800 sine 30. 800 sine 30. So if you solve this question, you are going to get the value of mu. I hope you understood this particular question. So by solving this question, you are going to get the value of this. See, there are so many such questions which you come across in the books and all, but what is so special about these questions is, these are the questions which are made by the professors of IIT. They are the NPTEL questions, and you can find these questions somewhere in the NPTEL assignment. If you go through, you will find these questions. When you solve this question, the value of coefficient of friction should come out to be 0.53. So try to solve on your own, and you should get 0.53 as coefficient of friction. So there are more than 2000 technical questions of engineering in NPTEL. If you solve these questions, I am very sure you will be very good in your concepts, not only for GATE but other exams also. Okay, let's see this question of engineering mechanics now. A lift originally moving downward at this particular velocity is brought to rest with a constant acceleration in distance of 25 meter. So actually it is not acceleration, it is the retardation, because if it is moving and now it is brought to rest, it is not acceleration but it is the retardation. The force with which the feet of a passenger of mass 80 kg, acceleration due to gravity is also given, pressed downward on the floor of the lift is. Okay, so stop this question and try to solve on your own before you see the solution. So this is what is happening. There is a lift and there is a passenger who is standing in the lift, and it is the lift is originally moving downward. It is moving downward, right? It is moving downward, and there is a retardation acting. Retardation means it is not accelerating downward, it is negative acceleration. So the retardation means negative acceleration. It is stopping while going down, it is stopping. With a constant acceleration. So lift originally moving downward with velocity this, v is equal to v square minus u square is equal to 2as. That equation you can use. It is brought to rest, minus u square is 10 square is equal to 2a into 25. So what is acceleration you are getting? 100 over 50, so minus 2 meter per second square. So it is accelerating downward with minus 2 meter per second square. it is accelerating downward with -2 meter per second scale. So that means it is not accelerating, it is retarding. Force with which the feet of a passenger of mass 80 kg press downward on the floor of the lift is. So we have already calculated now acceleration as -2, and now let me give you a small concept here. What we have already done about apparent weight. Let me give you this concept of apparent weight. So suppose there is a lift and there is a passenger in the lift. Suppose lift is accelerating upward. If lift is accelerating upward, the apparent weight of this passenger is its mass into g plus a. Acceleration due to gravity always acts downward, and if lift is accelerated upward, then reactionary acceleration acts downward, and g is added with a, so a plus g. So this is the apparent weight, which is also the force it applies on the floor. If the apparent weight of the passenger is W, then this is also the weight or the force with which the passenger applies on the floor. Now let us take the second case. Second case mein the lift is now accelerated downward. If the lift is accelerated downward, then the apparent weight acceleration due to gravity will be acting downward, but reactionary acceleration is acting upward on the passenger. The lift is accelerating downward, it is non-inertial frame, but reactionary acceleration is acting on the passenger in the upward direction. So the apparent weight in this case will be equal to m into g minus a. So this everybody knows that how to calculate apparent weight of the body which is inside the non-inertial frame, which is lift. So if lift is accelerated upward, the force will act on downward direction. The lift is accelerating downward, the force will act on the upward direction, something like this. Now our case is this, with the only difference that the value of a itself is negative. Value of a is itself negative. Why? Because lift is not increasing, acceleration is not positive, it is applying the brake, it is retardation. So what will be the apparent weight in that case is m into g minus a. What is m? 80 kg. What is g? 9.8. And what is a? A is further -2. Acceleration is coming -2. So it comes out to be 80 into 11.8. When you calculate it, multiply it, you get 944 Newton. That is the value you get it. So I hope you understood this. This is the very good question, with the only difference is that this is not acceleration, this is retardation, that you should have understood. Retardation means negative acceleration, and then you have to put the value of negative in your answer and accordingly you will calculate it. Obviously we will give you answer choice which is with a minus g also. 7.8 से b multiply करोगे तो some answer will come from here. Let us go for next question now. A very simple question. Moment of inertia of the wheel is 1000 kg meter square. At a given instant, its angular velocity is given as 10 radian per second. After the wheel rotates through an angle of 100 radian, the angular velocity of wheel is 100 radian per second. So what is the torque applied on the wheel in Newton meter? So whenever you get a question related to rotational motion, try to develop the analogy of that and try to solve that question using analogy in linear motion. So let me give you the analogy of linear motion and rotational motion. So what is the difference between the two? Let me give you the analogy of rotational motion and linear motion. In the linear motion, what happens is there is a mass. Rotational motion means there is a moment of inertia. In the linear motion there is a displacement, and here displacement is in the angular displacement radian. In the linear motion there is an initial velocity u, there is initial velocity omega 1 radian per second. In the linear motion there is a final velocity v, and there is a final angular velocity omega 2 radian per second. And then there is a acceleration a, there is a angular acceleration of alpha radian per second square. There is a force which we calculate as m into a, there is a torque which we calculate as I into alpha. And in this question, if you see, he is asking you to calculate torque. For torque, we need to have two things. One is I is given to us, alpha we need to calculate. What are the other values given? We are given omega 1, we are given omega 2, we are given theta. That means we are given v square minus u square is equal to 2as. Omega 2 square minus omega 1 square is equal to 2 alpha into theta. So now we have got two angular velocities. So now this is the formula. v2 square v square minus u square is equal to 2as. So linear mein this is the equation. For angular we say omega 2 square minus omega 1 square is equal to 2 alpha into theta. So what we want to find out is angular acceleration. So we are given the final angular velocity as 100 radian, initial angular velocity as 10 radian per second, and angular displacement is 100 radian. So if we calculate this value, this is coming out to be 9900 divided by 200. That is the value of angular acceleration for us. But we want to find out the torque acting. So torque is equal to I into alpha. I already is given to us as 1000 and alpha is 9900 over 200. If you solve it, you get this particular value. So whenever you get a question of angular rotation, just think of making some kind of analogy the way we made in this particular question. Analogy means think of what is there in the linear motion, how what analogy term we are getting in the rotational motion. So in the linear motion, suppose we get the velocity, then angular or rotational motion may we get angular velocity. In the linear motion, mass; in the angular motion, moment of inertia. In the linear motion, angular the linear acceleration, and in the angular motion this is angular acceleration. So something like that we will get the some kind of analogy in these terms. So this was the question which was related to your radian and torque, which we have to find it out. Okay, let's go for the last question now for this particular lecture, for this particular assignment. This is the question which is given to us. There is a 8-gram bullet which is moving with velocity 350 meter per second. This is the bullet which is moving with 350 meter per second at particular velocity, and it hits the cylinder bar at its centroid, center of mass, somewhere here. And there is a cylinder bar, cylinder means very thin bar, of mass 9 kilogram, and it is suspended from point B and is initially at rest. You have to find out the angular velocity omega, which the bar with its embedded bullet will acquire after the impact. Embedded bullet, impact is nothing but collision. So in this case, there is a concept of collision and there is a concept of angular velocity, tangential velocity and angular velocity. Now we know that collisions are of different type. This is the perfectly inelastic collision. This is perfectly inelastic collision. What happens in the perfectly inelastic collision? There is a coefficient of restitution which is defined as velocity of separation over velocity of approach. Suppose there are two bodies involved in collision. These two bodies are colliding with one another. Bodies are moving with velocities u1, u2. These are two bodies of mass m1, m2. Before collision, their velocities are u1, u2. And after collision, let us say their velocities are v1, v2. Obviously, you understand that u1 will be more than u2, then only collision will take place, and v2 will be more than v1. So the coefficient of restitution is velocity of separation over velocity of approach, v2 minus v1 over u1 minus u2. The perfectly inelastic collision is that in which the value of coefficient of restitution is 0. That means both the bodies start moving with the same velocity. That means both bodies will stick together or the bullet will get embedded in the body. So this is a body in which bullet will get embedded, that is the meaning of it. Now in this particular case, for that matter, in any collision, we know one thing, that in any type of collision, linear momentum remains conserved. That means if there are two bodies and they have momentum before collision as m1u1 plus m2u2, then after collision, suppose their momentum is m1v1 m2v2, linear momentum before collision, linear momentum after collision. But since both the bodies are moving with same velocity, this comes out to be m1 plus m2 into v. V is the final velocity with which both the bodies will start moving. Now how to find out the velocity? That is m1u1 plus m2u2 over m1 plus m2. Now see this equation carefully. One of the bodies is bullet. m1 is 8 gram, v1 is 350 meter per second, that is u1. Second body has mass 9 kilogram, but the velocity u2 is 0. Second body is at rest. So this equation reduces to m1u1 over m1 plus m2. What is m1? That is the mass of the bullet. What is m2? Mass of the rod. And now you see this carefully, this body is a purely rotating body. This is fixed at this point B. This cannot display the linear velocity, but at this moment of collision, it will have a linear velocity. Do you know the relation between velocity and angular velocity? V is equal to r into omega, and r in this case is 0.3 meter. So the velocity of the center of mass will be equal to r into omega. Omega is the angular velocity with which entire body will move. So at that moment, the linear velocity is equal to v, and that is equal to r omega. R is given 0.3 and omega term also we know. So if you solve this equation, you get the value of 0.777 radian per second as the angular velocity. I believe this is how we can solve the question of this particular thing. So now in this particular lecture of engineering mechanics, so as you get the question of NPTEL, really good question of NPTEL every morning 8 o'clock, mentors are coming out with some question and solving it for you. And NPTEL by the end of the this season, by towards the GATE exam, those of you who regularly will listen to this and jot down the questions, by the end of this till the end of this entire thing, you will be having hundreds and thousands of good questions, because mentors will keep on doing questions for you. So you will be having lot of questions with you, keep solving that. And also this question bank also you keep on taking with you, you keep this question bank with you, so that you get really good notes of these questions. And NPTEL questions are important because in the exam there is a very high probability question will be directly asked from this. So this question was good, this was a simple question, but it was NPTEL question. And this question also, because this was a retardation concept, students may make mistake on this. And then this question was also good, it was some kind of calculation involved in this. And this question was also very good question which was asked from NPTEL. So these were some good questions which we did today, 5 questions from engineering mechanics. Keep doing this, because engineering mechanics, the weightage of engineering mechanics nowadays is more, and you should do questions from that particular part. So keep revising this and keep attending every day 8 o'clock the classes of NPTEL. Thank you.